Welcome to your quiet reading time. We'll be reading some fascinating stories. Now, let's read together.
Fuxi, the eyes that read the universe. Chapter 1. The Fragile Spark. In the beginning, the world was a wild and dangerous place. After the Great Mother, Nua, created the first humans, she left them on the vast, empty earth. At that time, humans were like young birds falling from a safe nest. They had soft skin, slow feet, and no sharp teeth to protect themselves. The world around them was huge, and it did not care if they lived or died. To the first humans, nature was not a home, but a giant enemy. Huge mountains reached into the clouds like sleeping monsters. Great rivers ran across the land like angry dragons, ready to swallow everything in their path. During the day, the burning sun scorched their skin. At night, the darkness was so thick that they could not see their own hands. In this world of giants, humans were small, lost, and lonely. When winter came, the world turned into a white desert of ice. The wind screamed through the dead trees. It was like a cold, sharp knife that cut through their thin clothes and reached their bones. They lived in damp, dark caves, huddling together for warmth. Hunger was a constant shadow that followed them every day. They watched the tigers hunt and the eagles fly, feeling that they were the weakest creatures under the sky. They were afraid of the thunder because it sounded like a god's anger. They were afraid of the rain because it brought floods that washed away their simple homes. Life was a short and painful struggle. Every sunrise was a gift, and every sunset brought the deep fear of never waking up again. They had no tools to dig the earth, no fire to cook their food, and no hope to light their way. The only thing they had was a tiny spark of life. It was like a small campfire in a great storm. The heavy rain tried to put it out, and the wild wind tried to blow it away. But somehow, that tiny spark continued to burn in the darkness. This was the childhood of humanity, a time of deep cold and long shadows. They were waiting for someone to show them how to speak to the world. They were waiting for a pair of eyes that could see through the darkness. Chapter 2. The Weaver's Secret, the Silent Watcher. While most people lived in fear, there was one man who chose a different path. His name was Fuxi. He was not a giant with great strength, nor a warrior with a sharp sword. He did not have the power to stop the rain or move the mountains. But Fuxi possessed a gift that was far more powerful than any weapon. He had the courage to look at the world without closing his eyes. He was the first silent watcher of the universe. When the heavy storms arrived and the tribe ran to the dark caves to hide, Fuxi did not run. He stood on the edge of the high cliffs, letting the cold rain wash over his face. He watched how the lightning cut the sky into silver pieces. He listened to the rhythm of the thunder, trying to hear a heartbeat in the noise. While others saw a monster in the clouds, Fuxi saw a grand performance. He began to wonder if the universe was telling a story that no one had learned to read yet. Fuxi spent many years in silence. He sat by the river for days, watching how the water moved around the stones. He saw that the water was soft, yet it could wear down the hardest rock over time. He looked at the sun as it traveled across the blue sky. He noticed that it always rose from the same place in the morning and disappeared in the same place at night. The sun was like a golden king who never missed a day of work. This was the first pattern he found in the chaos. He looked up at the night sky, where the stars were like tiny diamonds scattered on black silk. He realized that the stars did not move randomly. They followed a secret map, dancing in the same circles year after year. He looked down at the earth and saw the seasons changing. He saw the green grass of spring, the heavy heat of summer, the golden leaves of autumn, and the white silence of winter. Life was not just a series of accidents, it was a cycle, a circle that never ended. Fuxi's mind became like a clear mirror. It caught the light of the moon and the shadows of the trees. He realized that nature was a book written in a secret language, and every bird, every leaf, and every drop of water was a word in that book. He did not want to fight the wind, he wanted to understand its direction. He did not want to fear the river, he wanted to know its flow. In the heart of a silent man, the first spark of human wisdom began to glow, ready to chase away the long night of the soul. Chapter 3. The Weaver's Secret. Hunger was a cruel master. In those early days, the stomach was a drum that never stopped beating. The tribe lived by the river, watching the fish dance like silver shadows beneath the waves. The water was full of life, yet the people were starving. They tried to catch the fish with their bare hands, but the fish were faster than thought. They tried to hit them with sharp sticks, but the water bent the light and hid the truth. The river was a locked door, and the key was nowhere to be found. One morning, while the dew was still fresh on the grass, Fuxi found a teacher in the most unlikely place. He was sitting under an old, gnarled tree when he saw a tiny movement. A small, black spider was hanging from a branch by a single, invisible thread. It was a fragile creature, no bigger than a fingernail, but it moved with the confidence of a king. Fuxi watched, unmoving, as the spider began to dance. It pulled silk from its body, jumping from branch to leaf, drawing lines in the air. Slowly, a beautiful map appeared. It was a circle made of many smaller circles, a geometry of hunger and patience. The spider was building a trap. When the web was finished, it sat in the center and waited. Soon, a fly blundered into the silk. The fly struggled, but the more it fought, the more the web held it fast. Fuxi's eyes widened. He saw that the spider did not need to be fast, it only needed to be smart. It did not need to chase its prey, it only needed to wait for the world to come to it. Fuxi returned to the riverbank with a new fire in his heart. He gathered long, flexible vines and tall, dry grass. His fingers were large and clumsy compared to the spider's legs, but his mind was sharp. He began to twist the grass into long ropes. He tied the ropes together, crossing them over and under, creating a pattern of small holes. His tribe members watched him from a distance. They whispered to each other, wondering if their leader had lost his mind. Why was he playing with grass when they were hungry? But Fuxi did not stop. He worked until his fingers bled and the sun dipped below the mountains. Finally, he held up a giant version of the spider's web. It was heavy and rough, but it was strong. He walked into the cold water, feeling the current pull at his legs. With a powerful movement, he threw the net into the air. It opened like a giant wing, falling silently onto the surface of the river. The water exploded. Beneath the net, the silver shadows were no longer free. They splashed and fought, their scales shining like coins in the sunset. When Fuxi pulled the net to the shore, the ground was covered in a harvest of life. The tribe fell silent. They looked at the fish, then at the net, and then at the man who had learned the secret of the spider. That night, the smell of roasting fish filled the air, and for the first time, the children did not cry from hunger. Fuxi had built a bridge between human need and nature's abundance. Chapter 4. The Language of the Universe. Having food was a great victory, but Fuxi knew it was not enough. The world was still a giant puzzle. One day the sky was blue and calm, the next day, it was black and full of anger. Why did the leaves fall? Why did the moon change its shape? To the tribe, these were mysteries of the gods. But to Fuxi, they were parts of a hidden language. He wanted to find the alphabet of the universe. He spent many nights staring at the fire. He noticed that the flame was hot and bright, while the ash it left behind was cold and dark. He looked at the mountains and saw the side that faced the sun was warm, while the hidden side was cold. He realized that everything in the world had two sides. There was light and shadow, male and female, movement and stillness. He called these two forces yin and yang. But how could he record this deep truth without using many words? He looked at the ground and picked up a stick. For the bright sun, the strong mountain, and the active force, he drew a single, long line. This was the symbol of strength. For the soft moon, the deep valley, and the quiet force, he drew a broken line. These two simple marks were the first letters of a new language. They were the DNA of the world. Fuxi began to combine these lines in groups of 3. He sat on a high hill, looking at the 8 directions of the world. He used his lines to describe the things he saw. 3 long lines became heaven. 3 broken lines became earth. He created symbols for fire that warms the heart, and water that flows to the sea. He made marks for the thunder that shakes the ground and the wind that whispers through the trees. When he was finished, there were 8 symbols in total. They were called the Bagua. They were not just drawings, they were a map of how the universe worked. They showed that everything is connected. The mountain needs the valley, and the fire needs the wood. Fuxi had captured the vast, complex world and put it into 8 simple signs. He had found a way for the human mind to hold the entire universe. The people gathered around the rock, looking at the marks in wonder. They did not fully understand them yet, but they felt a strange peace. For the first time, the world did not seem like a chaotic monster. It seemed like a beautiful machine with a rhythm they could finally learn. Fuxi stood up and looked at the horizon. He had given his people a net for fish, but now he had given them a net for the truth. Chapter 5. The Guide of Destiny. Before the Bagua, the future was a dark room. Humans lived only for today because they did not know what tomorrow would bring. They were like children lost in a thick forest, waiting for the sky to decide their fate. But with Fuxi's symbols, the fog began to lift. The 8 signs were not magic spells, they were a compass for the human soul. They taught the people that the world followed a plan, and if they could read the plan, they could master their own destiny. Fuxi taught the tribe to look at the water and wind symbols. He showed them that when certain stars appeared and the wind changed direction, the great floods would come. Instead of waiting for the water to wash away their homes, the people began to move to higher ground before the first drop of rain fell. They stopped being victims of the river and became its neighbors. They learned to respect the power of nature, but they no longer let that power destroy them. The Bagua also became a clock for the seasons. Fuxi pointed to the heaven and earth symbols to explain the cycle of the year. He taught them that there is a time to plant and a time to rest. Under his guidance, the tribe began to save seeds during the golden days of autumn. They built warm shelters during the heat of summer, preparing for the white teeth of winter. For the first time, humans were thinking months and years ahead. They were no longer just surviving, they were planning. This new wisdom changed how people treated each other. Because they understood the harmony of the Bagua, they realized that they were stronger together. They saw that the mountain needs the earth to stand, and the fire needs the wind to burn. Tribes that used to fight over food began to share their knowledge. The symbols became a shared language that connected different hearts. Fuxi did not lead them with a heavy hand, He led them with a clear mind. As the years passed, the Bagua became more than a tool for survival. It became a way to seek answers to the deep questions of life. When a leader died, or a new baby was born, the people looked at the lines of yin and yang. They looked for balance in a world of change. They realized that even in the darkest night, the seed of light is already growing. This was the birth of hope, not a hope based on luck, but a hope based on understanding the eternal laws of the universe. Chapter 6: The Eternal Code. Thousands of years have passed since Fuxi sat by the river. The wooden huts have turned into stone cities, and the stone cities have grown into forests of glass and steel. The fires of the ancient caves have been replaced by the bright lights of modern screens. Fuxi is no longer a man walking the earth, but his spirit is everywhere. He did not leave his people a castle of gold or a kingdom of walls. Instead, he left them a key to the universe. The Bagua he drew on that flat rock became the heartbeat of a civilization. For centuries, Chinese philosophers, doctors, and builders looked at those 8 symbols to find balance. They learned that life is like a river, always moving, always changing, yet following a secret rhythm. They understood that the strongest tree is the one that bends with the wind, and the greatest power is found in peace. Fuxi's lines taught them that man is not a master of nature, but a part of its great song. But the miracle of Fuxi's wisdom traveled even further than he could have imagined. Long after his time, thinkers in distant lands looked at the simple lines of yin and yang. They saw a beautiful truth, that the most complex information can be recorded with just 2 signs. Today, every computer, every smartphone, and every piece of digital technology runs on a language of zeros and ones. This binary code is the modern version of Fuxi's lines. The broken and the unbroken, the light and the dark, the ancient lines are still building our world today. Fuxi's greatest legacy is not just the Bagua or the fishing net. It is the human desire to observe, to wonder, and to understand. He taught us that we are not victims of the darkness. When we face a storm, we can look for its pattern. When we face a problem, we can look for its solution in the world around us. He showed us that the mind is the greatest tool we possess. As long as we keep our eyes open and our hearts quiet, we can read the secret language of the stars. The story of Fuxi is the story of our first step out of the shadows. It is the moment we stopped running from the tiger and started watching the spider. Every time a scientist looks through a telescope, or a child asks why, Fuxi is there. He is the silent watcher who still lives within us. He is the first teacher who told us that the universe is a book, and that we have the power to read every page. The code is eternal, and the journey that began on a riverbank 5,000 years ago continues with every one of us.
Alright, that's all for today's story. Thank you for watching. See you next time.